unbridled rage, physical fury, and overwhelming force. Let's talk about Barbarians. Hello, I'm Kester McKnight.
And I'm Tim Gwaine, and this is Pillars of Adventuring, your first stop on any adventure. Today, going to deeply explore one of my favorite classes, the Barbarian. This will be an exhaustive look, well, maybe not quite exhaustive, at the player's handbook paths, as well as some concepts to help you kind of start off and give you some ideas on how to set them up and how to avoid tropes and cliches as well. Unless, of course, you want them. And that's cool too.
But first, boring and important parts. Pillars of Adventuring relies on your support, your viewership, your comments, your likes, and your help in spreading the word. We are very happy that you are here, and we want to keep putting out content and even increasing the quality of said content. And the best ways you can help us are spread the word. Like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and if you can, even join our Patreon. Links will be in the description on the YouTube, and we should be getting some in the chat in a few moments if my bot likes it. The other big thing is we are still supported by SwiftLifestyles.com. They're a great gamer fuel company. One of my favorite things, you can see everything on the nutrition label right on the website, and it's got a couple different flavors, good stuff. We're thrilled to have them still as a sponsor. If you go to SwiftLifestyles.com and use the promo code Kestrel, that's Kestrel, at checkout, you will get a 15% off your purchase.
And we're also happy to announce, too, that we have a podcast. You can find us on Spotify by searching up Pillars of Adventuring. And we're working on getting it on other platforms as well. So if you want to listen to us on the go, it's now even easier.
And I do actually have an update on that happened just today. Or last night.
Oh, nice.
One of the two. Let me pull that up before I don't want to. So we are on Spotify, as was mentioned. We also are on Google Podcasts, Radio Public, Breaker, and Pocket Casts. That way you can get us at your podcasting place of choice. There are still a few more that we have requests into. We are not on the Apple podcast service yet, but we are working on it.
Nice.
So I'm excited for all of that, honestly. That's been really
That's
nice.
actually news to me, so that's cool.
Yeah, it's every so often I monitor the emails, so that's the news I got. Now, moving on, and why you are all here, not just us talking about ourselves, although I think we're quite interesting. Barbarians are the border between the civilized and feral society, relying as much upon animal instinct and brawn as they do their wit. Hardy of body, the barbarians are going to be the first into any fight, often not taking the moment to fully assess the situation before doing so.
Yeah, we won't talk about Caradoc. Now, not every barbarian is a tribal outsider of the civilized society. And not every barbarian belongs to a tribe. The barbarian does have a disdain for civilized societies, preferring the wilds and nature to the weakness he sees in the cities. Rarely do they have the patience for political intrigue and subterfuge. That doesn't really mean that a barbarian is stupid, though.
In fact, it is quite the common mistake that barbarians aren't intelligent. They are far more focused on being skilled warriors and protectors of their leaders and the leaders of their respective tribes, ensuring people are protected. The barbarians tend to be less concerned with the political and instead deal with what's in front of them. They charge in and face the threats head on, so others don't have to.
So let's begin by saying that when you are creating your barbarian, you need to figure out where you come from. Did you come from a far off land? Are you the town drunk who just happens to be an excellent fighter? Are you from the outskirts of the wilds? Is this campaign where barbarians are a bit more common? There are a lot of ways and reasons for a barbarian to be in a campaign. They aren't the most common class RP wise, but they are definitely useful. And it's important to understand why you decided to take up the adventuring life and leave your tribe if you're going to play a barbarian. Understanding this motivation will help you to explore further reaches of your character while the game progresses.
Yeah, and I definitely want to build on that. Barbarians are filling a role that used to only be taken by fighters in editions 3.5 and beyond. Well, previous. Barbarians were introduced in 4th edition and really have grown in popularity since then because of how they are. We'll talk much more about this because we're talking Barbarian.
And I can talk for hours. I won't, but I could.
So, some examples of what would bring this barbarian into the campaign could be something like you were a prisoner of war, and after your release, you now find yourself in a strange land with no way home. Your tribe was destroyed by another tribe. Orcs are great for this. If you ever need to have your tribe be destroyed by something, orcs, you can't go wrong. And now you wander trying to find a new home while exacting your vengeance. Or maybe you just simply committed a crime that your tribe couldn't forgive, and instead of murdering you, they instead exiled you. This could lead to a great redemption story or confirming the horrible crime that you committed in the first place.
I will talk later about my two barbarian characters to kind of emphasize what he just said. But let's get into creating your barbarian. So you get some advantages as a barbarian. First of all, you have the highest hit die in all of the classes. You have a D12 hit die per barbarian level. So you start with 12 plus your constitution modifier, and then later on you can either roll a 1d12 plus your constitution per barbarian level after the first level, or you can take the average increase, which is around 7. It's actually 7 plus your constitution.
Yeah.
So it would be, if your constitution modifier is 3, then you've got 10 hit points automatically if you take the average. That's really cool. Now, you can also wear light or medium armor. You can use shields. You can use any simple or martial weapon. And again, that's in the PHB. All you have to do is just look up what the simple or martial weapons are. Your saving throws, which we will explain later, they are strength and constitution. And you get to choose 2 skills from animal handling, athletics, intimidation, nature, perception, and survival. And to be honest, I typically choose athletics and intimidation. I figure that's what a barbarian would do, right?
If your group doesn't have, like, say, a ranger or a druid, that is fantastic. For me, I look on what's going to be balanced in the group. So if there is no ranger or druid, I will. So if there's a ranger, I let the ranger deal with the survival. Because while rangers aren't great, they aren't the most effective class unless played specifically right in combat. They are one of the best classes for any exploration or any discovery type, which sadly doesn't get used enough.
Right.
druids are probably the best for nature, and these things can come into play. Um, it also doesn't hurt. Okay, asking the DM, are we going to be more combat focused? Going to be more intrigue focused? Going to get a balance of everything? I like to try to have a balance of everything because it keeps things different. Folks who like the intrigue will get their stuff. Folks who like combat will get their stuff. In between, lots of things available.
Yeah, and there are always influences to what you choose. Normally, I have so far played in such balanced groups that athletics and intimidation work for my barbarians. So that's great. Um, to keep moving, to keep this on, because I can start talking. I can, like I said, I can talk about this for hours. You also start with a great axe or any martial melee weapon, two-handed axes or any singular simple weapon, and you get an explorer's pack and 4 javelins.
And it's important, even though you are a melee fighter, there are times in every campaign where either you can't get to the thing you want to kill, or you want to weaken it before you can get to the thing you want to kill. That's why the hand axes and the javelins are always a good option, because you can still use a strength modifier to throw them.
Right.
The unique class mechanic that Barbarians get, because every class gets their own unique mechanic, Barbarians get is their rage!
Yes!
In battle, a Barbarian can rage, which will tap into their primal ferocity as a bonus action. Think Viking Berserker. You get these benefits so long as you're not wearing heavy armor. So if you're wearing medium or light, you can still rage. You put heavy armor on, your Barbarian can't rage. You're just a tough fighter.
I absolutely love the rage because it gives you bonus to your attacks and to your attack damage, and it's amazing. You also get a few other bonuses that I think you're going to talk about
in just a moment. Specifically, you get advantage on any strength-based attack. So if you are multi-classing from a character that is going to be using a finesse weapon to get their dexterity, the rage will not help with that attack, but it could help with a few other issues, which, as we're explaining more of the stuff coming through, the rage doesn't just have damage output. So any strength-based checks or saving throws, rage help. They need to lift up a log, a wall, a house. It will help. I can't guarantee rage will let them pick up a house. Depends on the size of the house. When you make a strength-based melee weapon attack, you will get the bonus to a damage roll that increases as you gain levels in Barbarian. Please refer to the rage damage table in the player's handbook for that, because otherwise I'm just reciting numbers that confuse people. You also will get resistance to all physical damage. Slashing, piercing, and bludgeoning, specifically. So, things like fire, acid, poison, those, as rage on its own, are not getting resistance. So any traditional physical damage from swords, axes, so on and so forth, that is what you start off.
There is an exception, and we will talk about that later. Trust me, because it's my favorite exception, so we will talk about that.
It is an excellent exception.
It is. But yes, that is typical for most barbarian characters.
And every barbarian until they pick a path, which we'll be talking about in a few moments.
Yes. So I talked about the armor earlier, but my favorite part about being a barbarian, typically because I play barbarians who do nothing but wear kilts, is their unarmored defense. With unarmored defense, you automatically get 10 plus your dexterity modifier plus your constitution for your AC. So if you rolled well in your stats and you have a plus 4 to your constitution and a plus 3, you automatically have 17 AC. Your armor class is already 17. You can't get a whole lot better than that.
It is also important to note, if you're using magic items like bracers or a shield, you can still use those that would give you an AC bonus and have it not count against your unarmored defense.
Right, because those are magic items, those are not armor. And now, if I remember right, okay, yeah, I can use. Did say that.
Yep.
I thought it was just a magic shield. I didn't realize
any
it was
shields.
just
Shields in
any
general,
shield.
you can. Though most barbarians don't because they prefer to go in swinging a two-hander, and
I prefer the two-hander.
It's really difficult. I say this both as a role player and as a martially trained fighter. It is not impossible, but it's really difficult to use a two-handed weapon with a shield in hand.
Mm-hmm. The other thing I love about the barbarians is the reckless attack. Now, the reckless attack has some great benefits, but it also has a downside to it. So when you reckless attack it, it's sort of a free action. You just say, I'm going to recklessly attack, which means you automatically get an advantage on the attack. So rage is a bonus attack. Reckless attack is a free action. So you can say I'm recklessly attacking, which gives you advantage. However, it also gives your opponent advantage against you. So you have to really think about that. Do I want to really hit this guy? Because this guy's going to come at me and he's going to have advantage. However, with the 17 armor class and they consistently roll under 16, you're okay.
Now, it is also important to point out that you can only use this on the first attack of your turn. So, talk with your DM, how I run it. If you're dual wielding, I let reckless attack for both. That doesn't bother me because you're still attacking the same person. That's caveat. If they're attacking the same person, if they're attacking two different people, you can only reckless attack on the first one. With that, if you have options, which you will, to attack more than once, you cannot recklessly attack on the second roll as well.
And that's always good to know. Now, at second level, and this is something that I struggle with, all of my barbarians, I struggle with this. I don't seem to remember danger sense. Danger sense is an uncanny sense of when things nearby aren't as they should be. You have advantage on your dexterity saving throws against effects that you can see, such as traps, spells, that type of thing. And you cannot be blinded. You cannot be deafened or incapacitated. And I always forget that I have danger sense once I'm past second level.
You can be, but if you are blinded, deafened, or incapacitated, you don't get the ability of danger sense. So for example, let's say we're crawling through the basement of some evil wizard's lair, because all evil wizards have a lair, they all have a basement, it's in the coding, don't argue with it. Well, what good is an evil lair without traps? Many parties will have a rogue that will sneak ahead and search for traps and disable any. That's a good idea. Barbarians don't care. And this is part of why. So if there's a situation where if something is in front of them, they can, give a chance to dodge away, get back. I also will argue if something is surprised from in front of you, so like there was a hidden monster, I would give it as forfeiting a surprise round on the Barbarian, so long as the surprise is coming from in front of them. That's just my decision, my ruling on it, or DM may run it differently, but it's because of that you're on edge of things in front of you. That's why I'm coming with that spot.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Now, at the third level, that's when things get interesting for all the classes. It's where you start to diverge and split and spread out from the basic. Level 1 is you're a little bit better than the average person, but not by a whole lot. Level 2, you start to get into your groove. Commoners around you like, yeah, that guy knows his stuff. Level 3 is when you start to separate yourself from the other people of the same class. And for Barbarians, that means you get to choose your primal path. We're only going to focus on the 2 in the player's handbook. Down the line, when we start talking about the other books and collections, we will revisit each class and say, this is what's changed. This is what we get added in. So we don't want to bog you down with all that to begin with. There's a lot in Dungeons & Dragons. We'll take you a step at a time.
Right.
So, the 2 paths are Path of the Berserker and Path of the Totem Warrior. We are not going to say there is one that is better than the other, although there is one that has more utility than the other.
I will tell you that I like one better than the other, and you will know that in just a couple minutes, trust me.
And it's there are strong reasons for it. But I will say wholeheartedly with every single class and every single path, they are all viable. Some just require more creativity than others. And sometimes you may want to choose one that's not as easy or popular. 1, to see what you can get away with, and 2, to see if it works out in your head as well as you think it would. I've had a couple times where that wasn't the case. So, both are going to be detailed in depth a little bit more, but the big thing we want to let you know is that each path gets additional features starting at 3rd level, again at 6th, once more at 10th, and gets their final boost at 14th level. That's not to say it's final boost of the class, it's final boost of the path.
Mm-hmm. And to be honest, the boost that you get for the one that I like, which is actually the totem, it's the one that I play most. Both of my favorite barbarians, their Path of the Totem. I like them because I love the boosts. I'm playing currently Path of the Totem bear, and I played a wolf, and their boosts have to do with the animals with whom they identify. And it's really wonderful. We'll talk about that later, but those are just some of the reasons why I like the Path of the Totem, just because I like the boosts having to do with the animals. But before we go there, I want to talk about what happens at 4th level. You get an ability score increase. Now, this is something that you and the DM need to talk about, because there is an optional feature with the ability score improvement that you can choose a feat, and the feats there's a list, and we'll go over those eventually, but
we're going to have
right
an
now.
Entire day after we get all done with classes.
Yeah,
we're going to have an entire episode of feats. Yes. Which will probably come after equipment, but just
but the feats, you can choose one of those. Um, Usually the one that I choose right away with my Barbarian is movement, or the mobile feat, because you get 10 extra feet per movement. You also can go in, slash, and dash without causing an opportunity attack. One of my favorite feats. Um, but with the ability score improvement, you get it at 4th, again at 8th, 12th, 16th, and 19th level. You can increase one ability score of your choice by 2, or you can increase 2 ability scores by 1. But as typical with everything other than having to do with the magical item, you cannot go above 20. So if you're at 19 and you want to raise your strength to 21, sorry, bub, you can't do that. You can go to 20, can't go to 21.
Magically enhance yourself, but
Yes.
your base score will never be higher than 20.
Yeah. So the other one that I love is 5th. Now, at 5th level, you get a couple of really, really cool things.
5th level
And
where things really get hot.
looks like you got the other 5th level one. So I'll just do the one. I'll just do the one, and that is the extra attack. Danged if I don't like the extra attack at 5th level. It's like, oh yeah, I get to not attack just once, but twice now. And a barbarian can do some major damage with the right weapon and the consistent natural 20 critical hit. You can do a lot of damage. So I like that. And mainly it's because you just feel like you're doing some great things when you do that. And oh no, I do get to talk about the other one, fast movement.
Yes, you do.
So at 4th level, if you choose the mobile feat, you've already gained 10 feet. So as a human, you're basically at 30 feet. You choose the mobile feat, you're now at 40. Now at 5th level, you get fast movement, which gives you 10 more feet. So now you're at 50. My Barbarian right now, in Tyranny of Dragons, is at 50 feet. He moves faster.
He's not a barbarian yet.
Caradoc?
Caradoc's not in Tyranny.
Oh, no, Caradoc is in the other one. He's in the Saturday morning one.
Quiet Tempest.
Jeez. Yeah. He's in the Quiet Tempest, not Tyranny of Dragons. Sorry about that. Caradoc is now moving at 50. So he's moving quite fast. He's, other than the monk, I think he's the fastest one. I don't even think the Tabaxi moves that fast.
I don't know.
Yeah. So fast movement. Yeah,
but that's another issue.
Fast movement is one of those cool little extras that we get as barbarians when we're leveling up. 5th level is an awesome level for those of us who really like the slash and dash type character.
The other important thing to point out is the Barbarian is wholly not meant to wear heavy armor at all, because you lose this ability if you're wearing heavy armor. Which, if you're a Barbarian and you're wearing heavy armor, who hurt you? Now, moving on down the line, at 7th level, you get an ability called Feral Instinct, which really pulls off that mindset that we already have with Danger Sense, building into that whole feral concept. It hones your instincts so well so it actually gives you advantage on initiative roll. This is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes your fight all comes down to who gets to attack first. And there are some builds where you can do a ridiculous number of actions in a singular turn. I think the highest I've seen on a broken build was 15 actions in one turn by 15th level.
Jeez.
Yeah, this was a completely... I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Because he's afraid I'll do it.
If you're interested, search off Beat Outlaw on YouTube.
Oh,
Super
yes.
cool guy.
Yes, I've watched him.
Yeah, that super cool guy, very knowledgeable. And most of that stuff is done just to be goofy and say, yes, we have some issues with the rules. That build specifically will not work in my game. And there's a reason. DMs, be very aware of what your players are doing and the directions they're going. Because the easiest trap to turn on them is the one they don't know is coming.
And players, let me tell you something. You have to speak and communicate with your DM and say, this is where I want my character to go. Is this going to work narratively? Is it going to work with my character? Is it going to work with your game?
And we're going to talk about that in our DM session as well, because Tim and I had a great conversation on that Sunday night, in regards to Squadba and the Harpers, which I'll go over with that as well again. But yes, communication is key. So
yeah.
The other big thing is, if you are surprised at the beginning of your round with Feral Instinct, and you aren't incapacitated, you act normally on your first turn, with the caveat, you have to enter into rage before doing anything else. Which usually isn't a problem.
I will tell you that anytime my Barbarian attacks, that's the first thing I say. Bonus action rage. So, yeah.
I am very cautious with, which is why I don't play Barbarians a lot. But I'm very cautious with points and spell slots and things like that, which is why my wizard just is ridiculously overpowered. That's another thing. But there's why I hold off on the rate. That's what I'm trying to get. But beginning at 9th level, know how we were talking about those great roll 20s, the critical hits. Beginning at 9th level, you can actually roll an additional damage die when determining extra damage for the critical hit with melee attack. So keep this in mind. You start off, depending how your DM does it, there's two ways to roll critical. It is either you double the damage, or you roll a second die. Either way is fine. I've had ways where it bit me in the butt both ways. I had it where I rolled a critical on the attack, rolled a 1, rolled a second, and for a 2. Woo! I critically tickled the opponent for 3 points of damage. I've also had it the other way around, where if I had rolled the 2 dice instead of doubling it, it came up less. So I personally prefer to roll the damage dice twice, just because it gives a bit more random flair to it. But this would let you roll 3 dice and add them together. This increases even more. You get 2 additional dice at level 13 and 3 additional dice at the 17th level of Barbarian. Absolutely insane. You can hit a monster at level 17 and potentially do 5 times the damage.
And understand too that at some of these between levels, I have to look this up, 9 and 15, you get an extra 3 points of rage damage.
Yeah.
And after that, you get an extra 4 for rage damage. So understand that you're adding that. Plus, typically at 9th level, you have a magic weapon that's going to give you at least a +1, if not more, depending on how Monty Hall your DM is. Um, so if your DM is like I am, your plus is probably going to be a +3. That's how Monty Hall I am when I DM, which is why I don't DM. But you also have that damage as well. You have your sword attack damage, your rage damage, an extra die, or 2 extra die, or 3 extra die as you're rolling your damage. So you can do a lot of damage. So yeah, that's it. And now we go on to the next one there.
Yes.
Kes?
Relentless Rage. Starting at 11th level, your rage can keep you fighting despite grievous wounds. If you drop to 0 hit points while you are raging and don't die outright, so they don't double your hit points, which is really hard to do for a barbarian at 11th level anyway. Not impossible, just difficult. You can make a difficulty check 10 Constitution saving throw. If you succeed, you drop to 1 hit point instead. Each time you use this feature after the first, the difficulty will increase by 5. When you finish a short or a long rest, the difficulty will reset to 10. This is a little bit ridiculous and can be arguably broken if you're running a half-orc as well.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
Yes, a half-orc barbarian gets their first get-out-of-jail-free card with the racial, Relentless Rage, another 2. A DC 10 is hard not to do. You got a good 50-50 chance. DC 15s are fairly common, and people tend to beat them fairly regularly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go with the half-orc barbarian. That's the best.
It is little broken at that level, but you're difficult to take down, and that's the point. You are the strongest unarmored tank your party will ever get.
Yeah. So now we're going to get into the parts of the barbarian that I have not reached yet. These are levels that I have not quite made yet in my barbarian levels. So
and many official modules don't even take you up this high.
So I'm going to really be relying on my book, which is open to this page right here. So please forgive me. But the first one is Persistent Rage, which is, I really want to hit level 15 just so that I can have this. Your rage is so fierce that it ends early only if you fall unconscious or if you choose to end it. Now, I've played with quite a few DMs who don't end the rage early for whatever reason, because sometimes I think rules as written is if you don't get hit, you lose your rage. But or it's something close to that.
Yeah, as it comes in straight in there, rage lasts for 1 minute, ends early if you are knocked unconscious, or if your turn ends and you haven't attacked a hostile creature since your last turn, or taken damage since then.
Yeah. Now, that's rules as written, but I've played with so many DMs, and guess you're actually guilty of this, because actually I don't think Caradoc has ever missed.
Caradoc he has always been attacking someone or been attacked in his turns while raging in the 2 sessions I've DM'd for him.
Yeah. But there have been DMs that just, it's like, you're raging, so you're raging.
And same thing with Kelchrist. He's raging, and he's always in the mix of it going through. So
right.
I haven't had a situation where it's been an issue.
but
or enough
but this
monster
is
damage.
really cool. That's what I love about that's what I look forward to the persistent rage, is that I will always be raging, and that's really cool. Now that starts at 15th level. At 18th level, you have Indomitable Might. Um, and this is um, if your total for a strength check is less than your strength score, you can use your score in place of the roll. So Caradoc is at 18, I believe. I believe Caradoc's at
I think so.
18. Um, so if I roll a 17 at level 18, if I roll a 17, I get to scrap that score and use my strength instead. And that could come in handy on a number of different levels.
Oh yeah, good number of.
And now, the capstone of the Barbarian at level 20, Primal Champion. You embody the power of the wilds. Your strength and your constitution scores increase by 4. And your maximum for those scores is now 24. So easily, if I don't take my ability score improvement to move me up to 20, easily I could be 22. I had to math. I don't math well. Easily I could be 22 when I reach level 20. That could be my strength. That's pretty much the only time that you're going to go over the 20 mark is when it's said something like this, the Primal Champion, or like we said earlier, with a magic item or something like that.
Now, we're going to come back to those primal paths we're talking about. Rage burns in the heart of every single barbarian. Ignore that, I did not just smack my microphone. It's the furnace that fuels them. But barbarians will attribute their rage to different sources. For some, it's an internal reservoir of pain, grief, and anger. Others, it's a spiritual blessing, a gift of a totem animal or spirit guide. So, we're going to first talk about the path of the Berserker, which honestly is what I prefer as a barbarian because of how it starts so quickly. It's a much faster blood-soaked path. It is untrampled fury. It is slick with blood. As you enter in the Berserker's Rage, the thrill of chaos and battle, heedless of your own health or well-being, the first thing you get is Frenzy. When you choose the path at 3rd level, you can go into a Frenzy when you rage. If you do so, for the duration of your rage, you can make a single melee weapon attack as a bonus action on each of your turns after the first one. When the rage ends, you suffer a level of exhaustion. Now, what does that mean? Normally I wouldn't go into this, but this is actually important. What is exhaustion? You want to field that one, Tim? Or you want me to go for it?
You can go ahead, because I have never played a Path of the Berserker. I'm a little iffy on the exhaustion rules.
So exhaustion is one of the conditions you can get through everything. There are 6 levels of exhaustion that you can get. Not all classes have a straight exhaustion, and it is something that if you continue through, which my characters have never been in a situation where I've forced them on this, and most people don't just try to push through because they want their spell slots or anything back. But special abilities, environmental hazards, if you don't take long rests, if you're not keeping up on rations, long-term effects of freezing or scorching heat, they can lead to exhaustion. It's measured in 6 levels, as I mentioned. Level 1, disadvantage on ability check. So, that's not attack rolls. That's any strength, acrobatic, constitution, perception, persuasion, intimidation. That's exhaustion level 1. Exhaustion level 2, your speed is cut in half. So if you're moving at 50 feet, you're now down to 25 feet. 30 feet, you're down to 15. So on and so forth. You get, at level 3, you get the disadvantage on any attack rolls or saving throws. Level 4, your hit points are temporarily cut in half. At level 5, your speed is reduced to 0. You can't move at all. Which usually at level 5, you're forced into a rest.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do make it to level 6, you're dead. That's it. You're dead. No saving throws. Don't pass go. Do not collect 200. You're dead. The only way to get rid of a exhaustion level is you can either have a magical effect, or you have to finish a long rest. Each long rest will reduce it by 1. There are some spells that will reduce your exhaustion level as you're moving forward. But it is what it is. Hold on a moment. Alright, I'm back. Sorry.
That's all right.
Okay, and where was I braining before that?
Mindless Rage, I think, is what you next.
That's right. So we get the frenzy, you get that level of exhaustion, which can really help. It's just a matter of where you want to do it. The next one that comes in is Mindless Rage. Beginning at your 6th level, you cannot be charmed or frightened while raging, which is difficult to frighten a barbarian in the first place, but still, it doesn't happen. No magical charm or frightening effects will affect you, so no fear, no charm. Your rage keeps you going. If you do get charmed or frightened after you get into your rage, that effect will hit you after you come out of the rage, which can lead to some awkward situations if you are charmed and you were the one that slaughtered the thing that charmed you. Kind of funny, actually.
That sounds rather interesting. Like I said, I've never played a Berserker, so forgive me for these next two. I'm going to hit the next two. The first one at 10th level, you get Intimidating Presence. You can use your action to frighten someone with your menacing presence. When you do so, you choose one creature that you can see within 30 feet. If the creature can see or hear you, it must succeed on a wisdom saving throw. The DC for that is 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your charisma modifier. Or it will be frightened of you, and you can use your action to, on a subsequent turn, you can use your action to extend the duration of this effect on the frightened creature until the end of your next turn. This effect will end if the creature ends its turn out of line of sight or more than 60 feet away from you. The creature does succeed on the saving throw. You can't use this feature on him or it for 24 hours. So it's one of those charm type things, but it's
kind of a charm.
Yeah,
it's a non-magical fear, which fear is, in the games I've been playing recently, fear is underrated. Fear is a huge thing, and it actually helped early on in the Tyranny of Dragons campaign, causing fear amongst the ranks. It may have saved their lives in a couple moments.
Mm-hmm.
And having that non-magical to turn something away, he can buy your party the time it needs to whittle something down.
Hmm. Yeah. And I've tried to do that a couple of times with Caradoc on Saturday mornings, where I just, after I slay something, I'll just stand there and just wah, and try to intimidate the person. Um, I don't have the intimidating presence, apparently, being Path of the Totem. Um,
No, you don't.
but but um, it's it's nice to try that anyway. Um,
I'm gonna take a brief break here. Go ahead. Actually, let me switch the
okay,
screen back. Yeah, go ahead, and I'll be back.
okay. So the next one is Retaliation, and Retaliation starts at 14th level, and when you take damage from a creature that is within 5 feet of you, you can use your reaction to make a melee weapon attack against that creature. Now, there are a couple of feats that you can use, um, that you can get early on, that do almost the same thing. And there are very many retaliatory type feats and features of a few classes that you can do this. But retaliation at 14th level really is nice for the barbarian. He's already slashed twice. He's been hit once. Now he gets to use a reaction. Reaction happens every turn. So I mean that's pretty cool. That's a really nice thing. And again, I haven't played Berserker, have not made it to 14th level, so I wouldn't know about this, to be honest. Um, while Kes is away, I'm going to sneak and start talking about the next path, um, which is the Path of the Totem Warrior. Now, I love the Path of the Totem. Uh, Again, you pick this at 3rd level, and um, essentially you get to choose an animal that your barbarian relates to. I'll talk about Caradoc. He's my current barbarian. Um, when he was growing up in his clan, he would go out into the woods and he would watch the bears. He'd watch how they walk. He'd watch how they played. He'd watch how they fought. He'd watch how they climb. And so he is Path of the Totem, and we'll talk about the totem spirit in just a bit. But he chose the bear as his totem spirit. He related to them. He loved watching them. So you get to actually choose. Now in the book, they have bear, eagle, and wolf. And again, we'll talk about what gives what. But they each give specific traits to the barbarian. And also, when you choose your path, when you choose the path of the totem warrior, you get spirit seeker, and this gives you an attunement with nature, and you have the ability to ritual cast beast sense and speak with animals, and it's only as a ritual. And let's see, I believe, okay, I had to check. It's only as a ritual, so it takes about 10 minutes. You can do it at will, but it is a ritual. So beast sense, you can cast it and you can touch a willing animal, and for the duration of the spell, you can actually see and hear through that animal's eyes and ears. Speak with animals, sort of self-explanatory. You get to ritual cast and you will be able to speak with the animal. And now there are limits, and in the spell description, you can actually see what the limits are. The limits are based on the animal, and it only lasts for 10 minutes. So you cast it for 10 minutes, and you only have it for 10 minutes. And the knowledge that you gain from that animal is only based on the intelligence and wisdom of the animal, what the animal has seen, that type of thing. Pretty much your DM is going to be the one who will take care of all of that. So now we'll go to Spirit Totem, and when Kes gets back, I'm sure we'll have a back and forth with this. But the Spirit Totem, you want to pick a physical object, an amulet or some sort of adornment that incorporates the fur or some feathers or claws, teeth, bones, any of that. Caradoc, for instance, has a necklace of bone teeth or bear teeth, and he also has a cloak that is made of bear skin. Sorry, I talked about everything up to we are on the totem spirit,
Perfect.
and so we are all the way up there. And I'm just talking about Caradoc and how he's got the bear teeth necklace and the bear cloak that he wears. So that's his totem for who he is. And the aspects of the beast, I want to talk about the bear because I love the bear. So at 3rd level, automatically, if you choose the bear, while raging, you have resistance to all damage except for psychic damage. This is the exception that I talked about earlier. So that means fire, that means poison, that means all damage except for psychic. So you have resistance to that, which means when you roll at advantage. Basically, that's what it means. Or you get half damage. So if you're making a dex save, you roll with advantage. If you are if you're taking damage, you take half damage. But you take half damage anyway while you're raging. This just means these other damages, the fire, the poison, that type of thing, they're included in the bludgeoning and the piercing and that type of thing. So that's really cool. Spirit of the Bear makes you tough enough to stand up to any punishment, and Caradoc can.
Except for your emotional wounds.
Yeah, it doesn't cover psychic damage.
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words cause 1d4 psychic.
Exactly. That's exactly it. I'll let you take the next couple.
Yeah, so...
Since I talked.
Oh, that's fair, and I appreciate that. It was one of those situations where I just couldn't wait any longer. Now, the other two in the Totem Warrior, which there are more than these, but this is all that's going to be talked about in the Player's Handbook, because that's all we're talking about right now. So, there. It's the Eagle and Wolf Totem. So, the Eagle Totem, while you're raging and not wearing heavy armor, which again, why are you wearing heavy armor as a barbarian at all?
There is no reason.
If you're a class that wears heavy armor and wants to spec into barbarian, stop it! But while you're raging, other creatures will have a disadvantage on opportunity attack rolls against you. And you can use the dash action as a bonus action as opposed to a full action on your turn. The Spirit of the Eagle makes you into a predator who can weave through the fray with ease. This is important and underutilized. If you want to be an agile barbarian, using the full space, moving from point to point to point, Eagle is the way to be. Use the space, use the environment. Most DMs will reward you if you are doing that.
I can just imagine what what a barbarian eagle totem who has the mobile feat could do with this. If they've
With a
already
mobile
chosen
feat, the
this,
opportunity you wouldn't need the mobile feat because mobile feat takes part of that away.
well, yeah,
Because,
that's true.
but the bonus still of having the dash action as a
Mhm.
bonus action, that in itself is huge.
Right.
Okay, this guy comes in, sneaks past, gets to my squishy guys. Fuck that, super speed!
Exactly.
Now, the wolf totem, while you're raging, your friends will get an advantage on any melee attack rolls against any creature within 5 feet of you that is considered hostile. Um, there's an important reason why that's in there. The Spirit of the Wolf makes you the leader of the hunter. Now, the reason that is an important thing, if a player character has been charmed, or is just stupid, while you are raging, if your friends decide I'm on this guy's side, as opposed to stupid get everybody hit by a tidal wave side, that person will get disadvantage so long as you're within melee range. And they get advantage on any melee attacks. Basically, what it gives you is aspect of the pack. Or pack tactics. Sorry, that's the
Yeah.
what we're looking for.
Yeah. And my other barbarian is a wolf. He's Path of the Totem Wolf, and I think he made it up to aspect of the beast. Caradoc has one more level before he gets the boon to bear. Aspect of the beast gives you a magical benefit based on the totem animal that you choose. You can choose either the same animal. Caradoc obviously is going to choose bear, or you can choose one of the others as well. So for bear, Caradoc, for instance, is going to gain the might of a bear. So his carrying capacity, including his maximum load, which, by the way, I don't think you actually consider in the campaign. But
I rarely pay attention to encumbrance unless it seems to be a very obvious we done broke it.
Yeah.
Because for the most part, for me, while there is points and purposes and reasons behind encumbrance, one, I like to ignore coin weight, just period. And two, we aren't currently playing campaigns where the lifestyle side of everything is becoming a factor. That may be the case with Quiet Tempest later, I haven't decided yet. But if you're not in a spot where you have a resident or a town or some place where you're going to store stuff on the regular, for me, that's a level of inventory management that just is needless busy work at that point.
Right.
So, skip it, it's boring.
Yeah. But at any rate, it would be doubled. So if you have a DM that does take that into consideration, the weight that you can carry is doubled. Also, you have advantage on all of your strength checks that you make to push or to pull or to lift or to break objects. And I'm actually very excited about this particular aspect of the beast that is coming up, I'm sure, very shortly, within the next couple of weeks, I'm assuming, depending on how things go.
Next session or two, based on how things go.
Yeah. So I'm very excited about that because that just makes Caradoc seem a little more buff and strong.
Well, and fifth level and sixth level is really when characters start to shine and stand out. So this is really, you feel the biggest change of the characters at 5th and 6th level.
Right. Um, so I'll let you talk about Eagle. I'd like to talk about the wolf, though.
Oh yeah, no problem. The eagle, to me, eagle is the perfect totem for an elf barbarian.
Mm-hmm.
Eagle lets you gain the eyesight of an eagle. You can see up to 1 mile away with no difficulty. You're able to discern even the fine details. You're looking at something no more than 100 feet away from you. Additionally, dim light no longer imposes a disadvantage on any wisdom perception check that require vision. So, you're able to see fine details, no problem. Dim light is no longer an issue. What this means is, as an elf, Totem of the Warrior Eagle, or Path of the Totem Warrior Eagle, your dark vision is on super. Just. It's eating all the carrots.
Yeah.
There is nothing that your eyes can't see. It's ridiculous. Plus, you also get the higher speed. The dexterity means you're going to be less likely to be hit anyway from the natural dexterity that I'll get. The only downside is you will not hit as hard as other barbarians, but you're more of a hit and run barbarian anyway, because you're a totem warrior of the eagle. Do it!
You're giving me ideas for my next character, by the way.
What I'm here for.
So the next one is one that I had just gotten with my former barbarian. He reached this level, and so the wolf, the aspect of the beast for the wolf is you gain hunting sensibilities of a wolf, so you can track other creatures while traveling at a fast pace. So you can go your full pace, and you can still track, and you can move stealthily while traveling at a normal space. So I love this because it just adds to that whole genre. My other barbarian was raised by wolves, so he grew up in a pack of wolves, and that is why he chose that. That's also why he multi-classed into a druid. We'll talk about that later. Shepherd, Circle of the Shepherd. But anyway, when he reached this, it's like, yeah, now he's finally become what his pack taught him to do when he was being raised. So that's pretty cool.
Now at 10th level, you actually get something a little different. It's the most magical that they start to become, but the Totem Warrior gets more mystical side of things, less physical. They get the ability to cast Commune with Nature as a ritual. Now, when you do so, a spiritual version of one of the animals you chose for the totem spirit or aspect of the beast appears. So it can convey to you the information that you seek. Now, note how that is written. That means you do not have to pick the same totem all the way through. If you pick bear, you can go eagle next time, go wolf last time. Or you can stay on the same run. I personally prefer to stick with all the same, but you do not have to, rules as written.
Right. And one of the things I'm looking forward to for 10th level is getting to be able to talk to a spiritual bear.
This doesn't surprise me at all.
Very excited about that. Our cleric of Apollo will enjoy that, I'm sure. And then the final cap to the Path of the Totem Warrior is a 14th level totemic attunement. This is one that I've only read, I've not reached. Um, so you gain an additional magical benefit based on the totem animal of your choice. And again, it says on a totem animal of your choice. So at 14th level, if I chose, I could go with eagle or wolf, but more than likely I'll go with bear. You can choose the same animal you selected previously or a different one that is actually written in the book. So as a bear, while Caradoc is raging, any creature within 5 feet of him that's hostile to him has disadvantage on attack rolls against targets other than Caradoc or another character that happened to have that feature. So if we have another 14th level Path of the Totem Warrior bear, he wouldn't get that. He wouldn't get the disadvantage. But any of my other comrades will get a disadvantage. Unfortunately, an enemy is immune to this effect if it cannot see or hear you, or if it can't be frightened. So there are several actual, I think typically undead can't be frightened.
A lot of undead are immune. There are a few other creatures, aberrations that are immune to fear. There's a lot that can be, and a lot that won't be, but it's
right. And I mean, the typical DM is not going to throw things at you as a character if you're playing this particular barbarian. They're not going to throw every enemy that you come up against is not going to be one that is immune to being frightened.
Yeah.
So if they're a decent DM.
Yeah, I'm literally going to be going to the character sheets for the Quiet Tempest to see if what I want to have them go up against is impossible for them to kill or not. Because there are ways they could get around it, no doubt, but for example, not that this is what I was thinking of, but trolls are a great example of this. If you throw trolls into a group and no one in the group can do fire or acid damage, they will never stop the troll. Ever. It's just an absolute nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
But if one of them does have acid fire damage, or they, I don't know, have torches in their backpack, or the group is creative enough to go, okay, this is what's going in, you give them an opportunity with something in the area to defeat the trolls, it gives you that advantage, making it more difficult but environmentally based as opposed to just what they can do based.
Right, and that's always a fun thing to do. And sometimes we as players, while we're in the thick of things, all we think about are the things that we have that are weapons. We don't think about, one of my characters actually bought caltrops in a store one time just because he thought they might come in handy. Our player in Tyranny of Curse of Strahd, 2 weeks ago, dropped ball bearings as we were
just last week, actually.
Yeah, it was just last week as we were fighting some ghouls. He dropped ball bearings to trip the guy.
I used the oak table as a makeshift barricade.
Yeah. Sometimes it's the mundane objects, but we don't always think about that. And the DMs, typically the ones who really are in it for the story will take that into account. And maybe they might kind of guide you into doing that.
I'll give hints,
somehow.
and I will say on a few occasions, "Are you sure you want to do that?" Um, and
He said that to me on a number of occasions.
I'll explain why in our DM section, because that's actually very relevant to what we're going to be talking about. Now, getting back to the
Yes,
Barbarian,
let's.
the Totem of the Eagle, again, I don't know why this is slept on. The Totem of the Eagle, while raging, level 14 and above, you have a flying speed equal to your current walking speed. Basically because they don't want to write down that you can jump really well. Because this benefit only works in short bursts. You fall if you end your turn in the air, and nothing else is holding you aloft. So, if you've got people up on a cliff, and they're 30 feet away, including the height, so they're 10 feet away with 20 feet up. Hey, I can jump 30 feet! Boom! You're there! It gives you so much more oomph to it. And the reason it's important to point it out this way is if you are flying over a pit and your turn ends and you fall, you're not going to have a good time. It's not going to end well.
Yeah. But I will tell you, as we were going through this, I haven't actually looked at the eagle, mainly because I focused on, well, first of all, the wolf and now the bear, right? So now I'm going to have to have an elf that is an eagle.
An elf barbarian, I think, would be really good. A halfling barbarian would be hilarious.
Tiefling barbarian would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Especially as
Dwarf
an
barbarian wouldn't be a bad eagle either.
Mm-mm.
Not ideal, but wouldn't be bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just pure mechanics going together.
Yeah. So yeah, now we're going.
OP.
Now we're going this way with everybody. Let's go back to this wolf again. Gotta love my wolf. I haven't made it to this yet here either, but while you're raging, you can actually use a bonus action on your turn to knock a large or smaller creature prone when you hit it with a melee weapon attack. Now, that is
straight out of the wolf stat block.
And it should really be said here that as a human or any other basic, probably not gnome or halfling, because gnome or halfling, that would be awesome.
They're small. It's even funnier at that size, actually.
Yes, it would be even funnier, but it's the size larger. With a gnome or a halfling, it's 2 sizes larger, and you get to knock them prone with the path of the totem warrior wolf. I think that would be amazing. Little halfling barbarian coming at you and knocking you prone. So it's just one of those really cool flavor additives to the path of the totem. There, obviously, you know that I love the totem warrior. You couldn't tell by as excited as I am about it. So, but I love it because of the flavor aspect of it. Caradoc is very much, he's very much a bear. We won't talk about the ring that turns him into a werebear.
That's totally different.
That's a totally different thing. But it's just, he is literally a bear, and his best friend is the cleric of Apollo, and the cleric's spiritual weapons, his spiritual guardians, they're all fey bears. So we two have kind of bonded.
So that does bring us to the end of the Barbarian. It really does get us all a good solid in. If you have any questions about the main aspects or comments or anything at all, send us a comment down below. We do respond to any comments we get, and you all haven't talked to us yet, so I feel lonely.
And I will tell you, I will apologize, but I'm not sorry about talking a lot about this. The Barbarian, like I said, is one of my favorite classes. I love the Barbarian. They're fun to play.
Now, of course, for the player side of this, I am, of course, Kester McKnight.
And I am Tim Gwain.
And you've been watching Pillars of Adventuring.